My name is Dr. Emma Sullivan, and I'm 30 years old. I had just finished a 12-hour surgery rotation aboard the USS Mercy when I finally checked my phone and saw the family group chat that made me shake my head in frustration. Emma, sweetheart, my mother had written. I've been thinking about our conversation. You know we have those specialist positions open at the practice. Dr. Martinez from Coastal Dermatology called again. They'd love to meet you. Excellent hours, beautiful patients, and completely safe work. My father quickly chimed in. Your office is still waiting for you here in Newport Beach. Real medicine, real money, and most importantly, real safety. Time to stop playing trauma surgeon in dangerous places. The final message was from my older brother David, a plastic surgeon. Mom's right, Em. You're too sweet and pretty for all that blood and chaos. Military medicine is beneath your skill level anyway. Come home before you get hurt. I looked around the ship's medical bay, monitors beeping, emergency equipment ready, trauma protocols displayed on every wall. Tomorrow, we'd return to port in San Diego, just 2 hours south of my family's Newport Beach practice, where they'd spent 2 years begging me to abandon dangerous military medicine. My family had constantly pressured me to leave the Navy for their safe, profitable family practice. What they didn't know was that their too-sweet daughter had become chief trauma surgeon aboard one of the Navy's most advanced hospital ships. Before I continue this story, I would love to know where you're watching from. Drop your location in the comments below and hit that like and subscribe button. Trust me, if you've ever been told you're too gentle for your chosen path, this story will show you how powerful compassionate strength can be. Because sometimes the sweetest people are exactly who you want in a crisis. I grew up in Newport Beach, California, in a family where medicine meant prestige, predictability, and profit. The Sullivan Medical Group was a dynasty. My father specialized in cosmetic surgery, my mother in high-end dermatology, and my brother David in reconstructive plastic surgery for celebrities. Their practice occupied a gleaming building overlooking the Pacific, where the biggest emergencies were botched Botox injections, and the most challenging surgeries involved celebrity nose jobs. Everything was scheduled, sterile, and supremely safe. I was always different. While my family discussed profit margins over dinner, I read about battlefield medicine. While they planned family vacations to medical conferences at luxury resorts, I volunteered at free clinics in East LA. The moment that changed everything came during my final year of medical school. I was shadowing in a civilian emergency room when a multi-car accident brought in 6 critical patients simultaneously. Watching the trauma team work, the split-second decisions, the coordination under pressure, the lives literally hanging in the balance, I knew I'd found my calling. Safe family practice felt meaningless when people were dying from preventable trauma. I wanted medicine that mattered, where every decision could mean the difference between a family getting their loved one back or not. The night I told my parents about joining the Navy Medical Corps, our dining room fell silent. Emma, sweetheart, my mother said gently, you're too sweet for military medicine. All that blood and violence, it's not meant for someone with your gentle nature. My father set down his wine glass with concern. Military medicine is for doctors who can't cut it in private practice. You have the skills for elegant surgery, not battlefield butchery. But the Navy offers the best trauma training in the world, I tried to explain. These are life-or-death situations where I could actually save lives that would otherwise be lost. David shook his head dismissively. Emma, I make more in a month doing celebrity touch-ups than military doctors make in a year. Plus, you could get hurt, deployed to dangerous places, dealing with horrible injuries. Why would you choose chaos over comfort? My mother asked. You could work here with us, beautiful office, predictable hours, wealthy patients who appreciate fine medicine. But I'd already decided. I needed medicine that served people who put their lives on the line for others. Safe wasn't enough when lives hung in the balance. Naval Medical School was everything my family feared and everything I needed. The intensity, the precision, the understanding that hesitation could mean death. For the first time, my gentle bedside manner wasn't seen as weakness. It was exactly what traumatized patients needed. My first rotation in trauma surgery revealed something my family never understood. Being sweet didn't make me soft. It made me better at calming terrified patients, at communicating with families facing the worst moments of their lives, at maintaining humanity in the midst of medical chaos. Captain Rodriguez, my first attending physician, pulled me aside after a particularly grueling shift. "Sullivan, you have something special. You can stay calm under pressure while still connecting with patients. That combination is rare." But the real test came during my deployment aboard the USS Mercy, the Navy's premier hospital ship. This floating trauma center responded to natural disasters, humanitarian crises, and military emergencies across the Pacific. The medical challenges were unlike anything civilian hospitals saw. I excelled in ways that surprised even me. Emergency surgery during rough seas, treating mass casualties from earthquakes, performing complex procedures with limited resources, everything my family considered dangerous chaos became second nature. The breakthrough moment came during my second year when we responded to Typhoon Maria in the Philippines, providing disaster relief to thousands of victims. For 72 hours straight, I worked alongside seasoned trauma surgeons, treating crush injuries, internal bleeding, and complex fractures. When a 7-year-old girl came in with life-threatening internal injuries, I was the one who identified the rare complication that saved her life. Dr. Sullivan, the chief of surgery, said afterward, "That diagnosis took experience most doctors don't develop for years. You've got instincts for this work." But the calls home remained the same pattern of worry and dismissal. "Emma, we saw the news about that earthquake," my mother said during one video call. "All that destruction and suffering, surely you can see now that this isn't the life for you. Come home where it's safe." "You're wasting your talents on emergency medicine," my father added. Real surgery requires precision and planning, not this battlefield medicine improvisation. I tried to explain that trauma surgery required more precision under pressure than any cosmetic procedure, but they couldn't hear it. To them, military medicine would always be lesser healthcare. The final straw came 6 months ago when I was promoted to lieutenant commander and assigned as chief trauma surgeon aboard the USS Mercy. At 30, I was overseeing complex surgeries, training new medical officers, and coordinating emergency responses across the Pacific Fleet. When I called to share the news, my brother's response was immediate. "Chief of what, exactly?" "Military ranks don't mean anything in real medicine, Em. When are you going to grow up and join actual doctors?" That's when I realized I'd stopped seeking their approval and started living entirely for the mission. Every life I saved, every complex surgery I completed, every junior officer I trained, this was real medicine at its highest level. My family saw chaos and danger. I saw the most meaningful work possible, healing those who served others. The irony was perfect. My family lived just 2 hours north in Newport Beach, constantly calling and texting me to come home and see what real medicine looks like. What they didn't know was that their too-sweet daughter had become one of the most experienced trauma surgeons in the Pacific Fleet. They were about to find out in a way none of us expected. I was reviewing patient charts in my quarters when the 7.2 earthquake struck off the Baja California coast at 0347 hours. Within minutes, the USS Mercy had received orders to respond to what would become the largest medical disaster response on the West Coast in years. The next 72 hours were a blur of controlled chaos. Helicopters landing every few minutes with critical casualties, emergency surgeries running around the clock, and coordination with Mexican authorities for the most complex international medical response I'd ever been part of. As chief trauma surgeon, I led teams of Navy medical personnel alongside volunteer civilian doctors who'd flown in from across California. We treated everything from crush injuries and internal bleeding to pediatric trauma cases that required the most delicate surgical precision. On day 3 of the response, I was between surgeries when our public affairs officer approached me in the corridor. "Dr. Sullivan, we have media requests for interviews about the medical response. The Pentagon wants someone to represent the Navy's humanitarian mission. As chief trauma surgeon, you'd be the logical choice." I nodded, exhausted but understanding the importance of public communication during disasters. "What do they need?" "Live interview with Channel 8 San Diego in 20 minutes. They want to highlight the medical coordination and life-saving operations we've been conducting." I quickly changed into clean surgical scrubs and met the news crew on the ship's main deck. The reporter, Maria Gonzalez, was professional and prepared. "We're here with Dr. Emma Sullivan, chief trauma surgeon aboard the USS Mercy, which has been leading the medical response to this week's devastating earthquake. Dr. Sullivan, can you tell us about the scope of this operation?" I looked directly into the camera, professional and calm despite my exhaustion. "We've treated over 400 critical patients in the past 72 hours. Our teams have performed 150 major surgeries, including complex pediatric cases and trauma procedures that require immediate intervention to save lives. What makes military medical response different from civilian hospitals during disasters like this? We're designed for exactly these scenarios," I explained. "Our surgical teams can operate continuously. We have the equipment for the most complex trauma cases, and we're trained to provide both medical care and emotional support to patients who've experienced unimaginable trauma." The interview aired that evening on every major news network in Southern California. 2 hours north in Newport Beach, my family was having dinner when my father's phone buzzed with a text from a colleague. "Turn on Channel 8. Isn't that your daughter?" The Navy commendation ceremony was held 1 week later at Naval Base San Diego, in a pristine auditorium filled with military officials, civilian medical leaders, and families of the service members being honored. My family arrived early, still processing what they'd learned from the news coverage. They took seats in the guest section, looking somewhat out of place among military families in their expensive civilian clothes. My mother clutched her purse nervously, while my father kept checking his phone, clearly uncomfortable in an environment so different from their medical conference world. "I still can't believe Emma is receiving a commendation," my mother whispered to David. "She always seemed so gentle, so fragile," David finished. "I know. But did you see how those other doctors were looking at her in that news footage? Like they respected her." The ceremony began with Rear Admiral Patricia Chen taking the podium. "Today, we honor the medical personnel who exemplified the Navy's commitment to humanitarian service during the Baja California earthquake response. Their skill, leadership, and dedication saved lives under the most challenging conditions." My family watched as several junior officers received commendations for their service. Each citation detailed specific acts of medical heroism, but they were all relatively brief acknowledgments. Then Admiral Chen's tone shifted to something more significant. "Our final honoree today demonstrated exceptional medical leadership during the disaster response. Dr. Lieutenant Commander Emma Sullivan coordinated surgical teams, managed civilian medical integration, and personally performed critical procedures under extremely challenging conditions." My family sat up straighter, realizing this was building to something major. Dr. Sullivan's leadership during the 72-hour operation resulted in exceptional patient outcomes and successful coordination between military and civilian medical teams. Her calm decision-making and surgical expertise were instrumental in our response success. I walked onto the stage in my dress blue uniform, the same gentle daughter they'd worried was too sweet for military life. But now my bearing showed the confidence that came from years of making life-or-death decisions under pressure. Admiral Chun continued, "Dr. Sullivan's innovative approach to trauma triage and patient care has drawn attention from medical professionals throughout the fleet. Her work during the earthquake response exemplifies the highest standards of Navy medicine." As she pinned the Navy Commendation Medal to my uniform, the Admiral spoke directly to me but loud enough for the audience to hear. "Dr. Sullivan, your combination of surgical excellence and compassionate patient care represents the finest traditions of Navy medicine. You've proven that effective leadership comes in many forms." The audience erupted in applause, but I was focused on 3 faces in the guest section. My mother had tears streaming down her cheeks. My father sat with his mouth slightly open, finally grasping the magnitude of what I'd accomplished. David was applauding with genuine respect I'd never seen from him before. During the reception afterward, Admiral Chin approached my family personally. "You must be Dr. Sullivan's family. You should be incredibly proud. Emma has earned tremendous respect from every medical professional who worked with her during the response." My father found his voice first. "Admiral, we didn't fully understand what Emma was accomplishing here. the scope of her responsibilities, the lives she's been saving. She's become one of our most trusted trauma surgeons, Admiral Chin replied. Dr. Sullivan represents exactly the kind of medical leader the Navy needs, technically excellent and genuinely caring about her patients. My mother approached me with an expression I'd never seen before, not worry or disappointment, but all mixed with profound regret. Emma, watching you up there, hearing what you've accomplished. I finally understand why you chose this path. This isn't just medicine. This is using your skills where they matter most. For the first time in my military career, my family saw me not as their too-sweet daughter playing doctor, but as the leader I'd become. The drive back to my family's hotel was quiet, each of us processing what had just happened. For the first time in years, they had seen me in my professional element, not through their lens of worry and dismissal, but through the eyes of people who understood what I actually did. My father broke the silence first. Emma, I owe you an apology. A significant one. When I called military medicine battlefield butchery, I had no idea what you were actually doing. The precision, the leadership, the responsibility you carry. My mother turned in the passenger seat to face me. Sweetheart, when that admiral was describing your work, I realized we've been seeing you as our little girl who needed protection. But you're not little anymore. You're saving lives in ways we never could in our practice. David, who had been unusually quiet, finally spoke up. I need to be honest. I've been jealous. All these years, I thought I was the successful one because I make more money doing cosmetic procedures. But what you do, that actually matters. When someone's life hangs in the balance, they need you, not me. We sat in the hotel lobby, and for the first time in my adult life, my family asked genuine questions about my work. Tell us about the earthquake response, my mother said. What was it really like? I described the 72-hour shifts, the complex surgical decisions, the moment when a 7-year-old girl with internal injuries looked at me with complete trust as I explained her surgery in Spanish. I told them about coordinating with civilian doctors who had twice my experience but deferred to my trauma expertise. The gentleness you always criticized, I explained. It's actually one of my greatest strengths. Traumatized patients need someone who can stay calm under pressure while still showing them they're safe. My father leaned forward. When you were treating that child, your sweetness wasn't weakness. It was exactly what she needed to survive. That's what I've been trying to tell you for years, I said gently. Military medicine isn't about being tough or hard. It's about being strong enough to stay compassionate when everything around you is chaos. My mother reached for my hand. Emma, I'm so sorry. We kept trying to protect you from danger, but we never realized you were exactly where you belonged. David nodded. The way those other surgeons looked at you during the ceremony. I've never seen that kind of respect in our cosmetic surgery conferences. They see you as a leader, not just a colleague. Can I ask you something? My father said quietly. Do you? Do you like what you do? Are you happy? I smiled, thinking about the question I'd been asking myself for years. Dad, every day I go to work knowing that my skills might be the difference between someone living or dying. I get to serve people who sacrifice for others. I can't imagine doing anything else. 6 months later, my family visited me aboard the USS Mercy during a routine port call in San Diego. They toured the medical facilities with genuine interest, asking technical questions about trauma protocols and surgical equipment. My mother, who had once worried about me being around all that blood and chaos, watched me demonstrate advanced life support techniques to a group of new medical officers. You're a teacher too, she observed afterward. You're not just saving lives, you're training others to save lives. My father, who had dismissed military medicine as inferior, spent an hour discussing surgical innovations with our chief of staff. Emma, he said before leaving, what you've built here isn't just a career. It's a calling. For the first time, my family understood that their too-sweet daughter hadn't settled for less than civilian medicine. She had chosen something far more meaningful. 2 months later, I received a package at my quarters aboard the USS Mercy. Inside was a framed photo from the commendation ceremony, me receiving the Navy Commendation Medal, while my family watched with pride from the audience. Below, it was a handwritten note from my father. Emma, I've been thinking about what Admiral Chen said, that strength comes in many forms. I realize now that we spent years trying to protect you from the very thing you were meant to do. Your gentleness isn't something that needs protecting, it's your superpower. The lives you've saved, the respect you've earned, the leader you've become. Your grandfather would be so proud. We certainly are. Love, Dad. I kept that photo on my desk, not because I needed their validation anymore, but because it reminded me of something important. Sometimes the people who love us most take the longest to see who we've truly become. The truth is, I didn't need that ceremony to prove my worth. Every patient I'd comforted, every life I'd saved, every junior officer I'd trained had already validated my choices. But there's something healing about watching your family finally understand that what they saw as weakness was actually your greatest strength. If you've ever been told you're too gentle for your dreams, remember this. Compassion isn't the opposite of strength, it's strength refined. The world needs people who can remain kind under pressure, who can lead with both expertise and empathy. The daughter they worried was too sweet for surgery became someone who saves lives precisely because she never hardened her heart. Sometimes the softest touch is exactly what healing requires. So, what about you? Have you ever been dismissed for traits that were actually your superpowers? How did you turn perceived weaknesses into professional strengths? Share your experiences in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more stories of quiet strength and unexpected triumph. Remember, never let anyone convince you that kindness is weakness. The world needs your gentle strength more than you know. Until next time, keep healing with your heart.